Well, this is the wrong BGM for this area, but you know, the Royal Waterways does not have that great of background music, so we're gonna be listening to this one instead. Anyways, it is now time to actually go ahead and start ranking the platforms in the Royal Waterways. Now, something I do want to be clear about is the Royal Waterways is very weird, because I feel like most people come here for like maybe a couple of hours, maybe like a day if you're very casual, and then they leave and they like never come back here. So really, this is one of the weirdest areas because there's only a couple of main interest points, and that's really about it. The whole entire area is kind of forgetful. But regardless, we are going to be ranking every single floating platform in this area. And yeah, we'll just get started as where most people would start their Royal Waterway adventures. Up here by the quay. So right above here is where you normally would access this area via a simple key from the City of Tears. And then you get dropped into this area and it's dark, it's damp, it's uncomfortable. And there's two ways of going. You can either go to the right or you can go to the left. I went to the left, so I'll be going to the left first, but we will still cover every single part. The first couple of platforms actually are pretty good, and the main reason is because of these guys. I forgot what these guys are called. Yeah, so these enemies here are called pill flips, and they're actually very interesting because when you hit them, they actually flip upside down, and they'll start jumping at you instead of crawling. And yeah, pill flip is a palindrome, so you can spell it both forwards and backwards. It's really good because, well, at first glance, technically, yes, this whole upper area isn't really necessary. However, because these guys flip upside down and jump at you, this part right here, that little platform, actually becomes a really nice place to quickly kind of hide and observe. So in my opinion, both of these platforms are really nice because you have a good vantage point as well as a soul totem in access like immediately. So in my opinion, these are really good platforms, especially for like introductory to the area. So I think these are gonna get a 7 and a 7. I suppose technically you could make the argument if we had gone to the right and you see a slightly different enemy, these enemies being, I guess, these guys. But these enemies here, they're called hrumps. Yeah, I don't even know how to say it, it's just kind of funny to me, but they're called hrumps. And when you hit them, they balloon up into like large things, and they kind of bounce around, they're like balloons. And so in my opinion, I actually think these, as I guess the other half of the introductory platforms, are also really nice because they provide a large like open space, and you kind of think like, why is there so much space? And the moment you hit one, you realize like, oh, that's why. These guys take up a lot of space. But also the additional challenge of the Bellfly, as well as the Geo-Rock combined with the breakable wall. I think these are actually a pretty interesting area, if not interesting platforms to begin with. So here's what I'll say. I think the first platform here, probably the first platform you'll land on, probably gets a 7. This one will probably get a 7.5 for difficulty's sake because of the Bellfly. And the others, I think this one gets a 6. And I think this one will get a 6.5. Because again, this is probably another area where it has acid. The only other area that you probably find that has acid is the fungal wastes. And you'll quickly realize, oh, okay, I can't go in the water. Or acid. And so this little platform here is going to be like your little safe haven. But as for introductory parts go, it's pretty good. And obviously we have our guy Tuck here, who will, I believe, sell you rancid eggs or buy rancid eggs, I forget which one. But for the time being, this is just kind of like the first main portion of the area. Outside of this small portion here, this one in my opinion is just a platforming sequence. There's not much going on here. But I think these ones just get 5s. Alright, just for simplicity's sake, because I did go to the left first, I'm going to finish off the parts that are to the left, and then we'll kind of come back, wrap around, and then finish off the other half of the Royal Waterways. In this area, we have a couple of stuff, not a whole lot. In case you didn't go to the right, you'll have your introduction to the hrumps here. And again, it's a very large open area. We have a grub down there as well. But there's not really a whole lot. In my opinion, I think this one probably gets like a 5. This one gets a 6 because, you know, we have our hrumps here. And then this one probably just gets a 5.5. There's not really a whole lot. Even for speedrunners, we don't really go in this area almost at all. Or at least not that I'm aware of. And as for casuals, it's not a very interesting place either. So everything here is kind of okay, to say the least. Nothing very special, but nothing very bad either. We have a couple of platforms underneath here which are actually kind of helpful. In my opinion though, because the reward here is just a rancid egg, I don't know many people who actually use rancid eggs for their intended purpose outside of just collecting them. Or the speedrun all rancid, or I think it's like, what, 60 rancid eggs? Which I am very confused about, but whatever. In my opinion, these platforms do serve a good purpose, or well, they serve the purpose that they serve. But that's about it, and the purpose is to get to the rancid egg. It's not that great. So in my opinion, I'll give them a 5.5, because, you know, they serve their purpose, they're good platforms, but they get you to a rancid egg. It's not that great. In my opinion. More to the left, you'll notice that there are more papers. Especially for casual, this is a great sign because that means Cornifer is just around the corner. The unfortunate part is these platforms are not very interesting. Sure, they provide some difficulty with the humps and the introduction of these guys, which I believe are called flukelays. And so, yeah, these guys are fast. They will charge at you and bounce off any wall that they hit. They can provide some challenge. However, the platforms themselves, combined with that, still aren't very interesting. This one probably just gets a 5. It's an average platform. Maybe this one gets a 5.5 because it is smaller than the others. Same thing for this one, which provides a slight more, I guess, difficult platforming sequence because you can fall into the acid below. There's not much going for this one. And then you just head left into the area with Cornifer. And in this area with Cornifer, well, there's only 4 platforms total. And no, I am not going to be counting this platform combined with this platform because they're combined by this wall. In this little arena, you are greeted with, what, how many? 6 humps. Oh, 7 humps. You have to defeat all of them in order to gain access to the switch, which basically lets you out. Now, here's the thing. These platforms are pretty nice because, again, this is an arena. You are meant to fight around these platforms. In my experience, these 2 platforms, the bottom one and the top ones, were my friends because the bottom one, you can hide right underneath it from all the humps and their giant bodies. Or the top one because you can observe and see everything with the most amount of room. So in my opinion, these 2 are actually going to get 8s. I really like these platforms. I don't want to give them anything higher than 8. I could argue for an 8.8, but even from a casual perspective, they're just kind of good platforms. Same will go for the outside platforms. Maybe not so much the left platform, because you'll notice, I guess, room-wise, there's not as much space as opposed to this bottom right one. So in my opinion, maybe the left one will get like a 6.5, and the right one will get a 7. I think those are pretty fair in terms of amount of room for combat. And that's really about it for this Cornifer room. And no, there is nothing more to the left. This is the sealed entrance to the fungal waste. Maybe it was meant to open at some point in time, but they took it out in development at some point. I don't know. I wish this was a door, but I'm not ranking doors. And no, I will not be ranking doors in the future. But that's really everything on the left side of the Royal Waterways. There's not many. I'll be completely honest, a lot of the areas in the Royal Waterways are connected together, making there be very little amount of individual platforms. So there's not many, but I will still have to kind of go around and find them because I don't remember where all of them are. But what I do know is that some of my favorite platforms are located right here. Now, and it might come off as a little bit weird because you might thinking like, oh, why do you have favorite platforms in this area? Especially in an area that you don't really visit for very long. Well, it's because of this boss. Now, in case you don't know, this boss is, and I quote, the alluring god of motherhood. Take with that what you will, but these platforms are really nice. I will be completely honest, this boss can be really annoying for beginners / casuals especially if you don't have the Abyss Shriek or the Howling Race. The Fluke Marm will send out Fluke Lays, and by now you should have a pretty good understanding of what the Fluke Lays are. They charge at you very quickly, and these platforms become your, I guess, parkour course. You have to maneuver around them and defeat them somehow. Here is where I'm going to be completely honest. Some of these platforms are really, really good, and some of these ones are really bad. I'll start with the top two platforms. So these ones right here. These two platforms are okay at best. I will give them a 5.5, slightly above average, because from these platforms you can just pogo on top of the Fluke Marm until she's dead. And then anytime the Fluke Lays come out, you can retreat back and then defeat the Fluke Lays, return to pogoing, come back, rinse and repeat until the boss is dead. Here's the issue though. I'm only giving a 5.5 because that's not the fastest way to kill her, which means in a speedrun, these platforms are not that great. For casual, they might be pretty good. But again, these are not the best platforms here. Moving down, in my opinion, these two platforms are the worst platforms. Mainly because they're so far away from the Fluke Marm. Now, if you kind of look at it, sure, you might argue that some of them are a little bit farther, but there's also the most amount of open area, which makes the Fluke Lays that, shoot out very, very easy to hit you. So in my opinion, these top middle platforms are the worst platforms in this area, or in this room, this arena. These ones, in my opinion, will get a 3.5. It's not that great. Even as a casual, you want to avoid these ones. You'll quickly find out that the Fluke Lays launch out and basically hit you immediately, and these ones are the worst ones. I'll be honest, I don't like this platform specifically because it's small, but that's a personal thing. I'm not actually going to be, doing much on that end. But these platforms are also okay. I think these ones will probably get a 5.5, and this one just gets a 5, just because it is small and it's hard to stay on that platform, especially when the Fluke Lays are being shot at you. But the reason why I want to give these ones a 5 is because they're just kind of normal platforms. You can go there, you can jump and attack, and then, I guess, jump there, fall here, jump back up. Just rinse and repeat again of just going back and forth. But it's still, they're only okay. Even as a casual and a speedrunner, these platforms are just kind of not bad, I suppose. It's these bottom platforms that are actually the best ones. Which is funny because technically, these platforms at the bottom, which I'm not going to be ranking, are actually worse than these bottom floating platforms. And I'll explain very briefly why. These two bottom platforms are really, really nice because they give you the fastest access to hit the Fluke Marm and return back to your, I guess, platform. You can just jump, hit, and then return back. You can just rinse and repeat, just jump, hit, and then turn back. And it's really, really nice because the Fluke Lays, yes, come out this way, or this way on the other end, and they might hit you. However, there is, if you time it well, you can just instantly hit them as soon as they come out. And so what that means is, if you are on either of these platforms, you can jump, hit, and then kind of come back. And the moment the Fluke comes out, the Fluke Lays come out, you can hit it. And if you have a strong enough nail, hopefully you have at least nail 1 at this point, you can two-shot the Fluke Lays. And usually the Fluke Lays come in pairs of 2s. There's always going to be one coming out, there's always going to be 2 coming out of one of these 4 locations. Regardless of which location they come out of, if you are on either of these platforms, you will always have access to, hopefully, one of them. And the other one will either, and I will tell you exactly the route it takes. Right? If you are in the bottom left corner, right here, this one will come right here. This one will come here, bounce off, and then come this way. And again, very easy to predict. This one will also come around this way. Easy to predict. This one is the only weird one. It might bounce out this way, or it might bounce off this way. It's kind of weird depending on your positioning. But either way, it's still very easy, unlike all the other platforms. And same thing with this side. It's all the same stuff, just reversed, I suppose. So technically, it's not much different. For me, these are the best platforms. Because again, if you have Abyss Shriek or Howling Race, you can just pop off and then Abyss Shriek and it'll hit. It's so easy. And in my opinion, I think that these platforms will get a 7. I think they are very worth of that number. You can argue that they might be a little bit less, however, I would argue that they're slightly higher than that. Alright, as far as I'm aware, that's kind of most of the stuff in the leftmost area. In the middle of the area, we have some. I suppose we'll go towards Dung Defender, because that's where you're quote-unquote intended to go. In my opinion, these 3 platforms on your way to Dung Defender don't really serve that much of a purpose. However, I guess I'll give them 5.5s each. And the reason why I'm not giving them just a 5 for, you know, like environmental, like climb this area kind of thing. The reason why I'm giving a 5.5 is because the whole time, ever since you are, I guess, in this little area, you can hear the Dung Defender laughing and cheering and doing whatever the Dung Defender does on his free time. I don't know. You can hear him, which means as you climb around, you are greeted with his noises, and you are like, what is that noise? It's getting louder. And you realize, like, you are getting closer and closer to this sound, which means you are getting closer and closer to this boss. Which really does mean, you know, it's a good environmental thing. Like, as you climb, you are getting closer, and you can hear it getting closer. Or, well, you can hear yourself getting closer. And so I think that serves a very nice purpose. That's really all I can say about it, though. The other platform is, after Dung Defender, once you beat him, you are greeted with this small platform. So this platform is just kind of there for aesthetic reasons. I do understand, yes, there's a platform here, which means you want to climb it. And subconsciously, it makes you kind of go up and figure out, oh, there's a lever. I want to hit this lever too. So in that regard, it does serve a good purpose, even if it doesn't really serve that big of a purpose. So it does its job. It's okay. I think this one will get a 6, just because of that. But also because, you know, you have to beat Dung Defender first to get here. So I think it's worthy of a 6, not much else. I don't want to give it any higher, but I also don't think it should get anything lower. And then we have this room. This area is really weird. And the main reason is not necessarily because it's just a normal platforming sequence. I think everyone can understand that part. But it's weird because of my no movement challenge, where I try to get from the highest point and the lowest point, vice versa, without using left or right. I just had to use dash, crystal dash, or whatever. This was one of the weirdest areas, because there's so many strange parts where I had to make a lot of weird maneuverings. But in my opinion, that's a challenge part. It's just kind of extra stuff. Everything here is just kind of normal, I suppose. It's a normal platforming sequence. There are some fluke lays here to kind of make things difficult, but make things a little bit difficult, but it's not that bad. So in my opinion, everything here probably gets like a, maybe this one gets a 6 because that's an introductory step. 6, 5, 5. I'm gonna give this one a 4 because it's kind of a dead end. And also there's a fluke lay here, so it's kind of, regardless of which direction you come from, this is more of a trap platform, I suppose. This one probably gets a 5. This one probably gets a 5 as well. Actually, you know what? I'm giving this one a 5.5 because if you come from this direction, it is also still pretty good as an introductory platform. And there is one more platform all the way to the right. I'm gonna be completely honest. I think the only reason they added this platform is for people who dashed, realized there's nothing afterwards, and had to come back. So in my opinion, I think that's the only reason why this platform exists. I think that's being a little bit too nice. I grew up with Nintendo hard, right? Like, I grew up with Mega Man games that if you fall once, you die and you have to restart the whole entire level. That's what I grew up with. I think this platform is nice. Especially since if you fall into acid, you only lose one mask. Like, it's not that big a deal. So in my opinion, this platform serves a good purpose, especially for casuals. Especially if they don't have, you know, Crystal Dash yet. They dash off and they land back on this one. It's a safe haven, yes. In my opinion, this is a little bit too nice. So I'm going to give this one a 4.5. And you might say, oh, that's slightly low. I think it should be 5. I disagree. I think it's too nice. Get rid of this platform. I don't think it should be there. So 4.5 is where I put it. And then that is the entire, like, left half middle portion of the Royal Waterways. The only parts we have left are these parts over here. And this is Isma's Grove. There's not a whole lot, it suffers from the same problem. The whole entire thing is a maze. Everything is connected to each other. But there are some, and there are some that are really good. Obviously, we have our first couple of platforms just kind of in this main area. Nothing super serious, but it does kind of provide a little bit of atmospheric stuff. At this point, you should have beaten the Dung Defender, unless you did the skip, in which case, good for you. I do want to point out a couple things though. These ones will get 5s because they're just your average platforms. I think they do a good job. Nothing bad, nothing good. I'm giving this one a 6.5. And my specific reasoning is because of speedrunner purposes. For speedrunning purposes, you either want to stand here or on this platform here so that you can get sold, just in case, unless you're good enough, to do an acid skip over here. And yes, you can do an acid skip over here. It's kind of difficult because, I guess if I zoom in real closely, there is a ledge right here that you can grab, which means it's unlike the Queen's Garden acid skip where you can just kind of slide down and then crystal dash. You have to dash into this little crevice here, which makes it slightly harder. Granted, the window of opportunity for the acid skip is bigger, the format of it is slightly harder, but this is a nice place. That's where I would put it. And I don't think there's any platforms above here, if I'm not mistaken, so no reason to go over here. Well, I guess there's technically this one. This one does have a secret hole over here, so which means, yes, this would count as its own individual platform. I don't know. I don't really see this one as very grand or very bad. It's just a platform. It's just standard average. Nothing really impressive there. But it's the other platforms. I think there's only a couple more platforms in this area that I want to talk about. Obviously, this one, it's okay. I'll give this one a 6 because we do have a flying sentry, which makes things a little bit difficult. But then we also have this bigger platform, which is, I guess, connected to part of an arena, which is okay, I suppose. This one also gets a 4 just for pure, no, it's an average platform, whatever. It may not serve that big of a purpose, but it's still okay. It's the platforms underneath here that I want to talk about, because these ones are really good. Unfortunately, Isma is not part of her own platform, unfortunately. But I do want to talk about these. So, for a casual, these are all whatever platforms. You might see them as pretty okay, especially after you get Ismas here. You are no longer worried about falling into the acid. But as a speedrunner, these platforms are really interesting. Because after you do your acid skip, you can do another one here and land on this platform. Which means this platform has a lot of good value for a speedrunner. So in my opinion, I'm only going to give it a 6.5 again, because for casuals, who cares? For speedrunners, we care. And that's like half the people. Well, I guess very much less than half the people who play this game. But it's a good platform. This platform, debatable whether it's an actual platform or not. I'll just say 5 asterisk, because I don't know. This platform, in my opinion, actually will get a 6.5. Just because this is, well, theoretically, this should be the first platform you land on after dropping down. So for casual, it's really nice. For a speedrunner, it's okay, so I'm not opposed to giving it anything higher. The other platforms, well, in my opinion, they're just 5. It was specifically this platform that's really important for speedrunners. So they're okay. There's nothing really impressively awesome about them, but there's also nothing really terribly bad about them either. And here's the main issue. This was all of the Royal Waterways in terms of this area. There are 2 other areas that are not put on this downloadable map, unfortunately, because, well, this is not the base game, quote unquote. And those 2 areas are this area with all the, I think they're called flumungas or something like that. I forgot what they're called. No, this is part of the God... Yeah, these enemies were part of the God Master content because this is a new area. They're called Flukmungas. And they deal 2 masks of damage. They're kind of scary, they're very uncomfortable to look at. But here is the thing. In this area, we have a lot of platforms simply because they're long corridors. And really, I say that, but there's only, what? 1, 2... Yeah, there's only 2 platforms in this area. So, in my opinion, I'm actually going to give these ones a 4.5. Because there's only one reason why this area exists in the first place. this area is located over here. Oops. This area right here, this is where you get transported to this entrance right here. And so, yeah, I had to go and splice some of these screenshots. I apologize if they're off and terrible looking. But the only reason you come in this area in the first place is to leave. Because this area leads you to, well, not directly out of this part, but it gets you to this area that is the junk pit. This is the junk pit. And so because of that, you know, this place is important because there is a Godmaster down here, and you have access to the Pantheons. This is probably my favorite area in the Royal Waterways. Not for any, like, special reason. This is where the Pantheons are, and that's where I had my first actual competitive speedrun. So, in my opinion, this is a kind of cool area. It's a DLC area, and, of course, you can find the Nail Master, or not Nail Master, the Nail Smith here if you decided to kill him. But you shouldn't. You should save his life and go meet him at Shio's place. But these platforms, they're not that special. They're not that special. As much as I wish that these platforms could be really cool, they're not really. Because here's the thing. The only reason why these platforms exist in the first place is so that after you play around in the Pantheons, you can leave via the only exit in this area. That's the only reason. There's nothing else. Because the thing is, if you enter this area, you can just fall and then go this way. You don't have to do this platforming sequence. So in my opinion, these platforms serve only half their purpose. So in my opinion, I will actually be ranking these platforms in reverse. Our first platform then will be this guy right here. This big platform that you just kind of climb up around. This is okay. That one gets a 5. This platform, probably just a 5. This platform, I'm going to give a 5.5. Simply because it is one of the taller platforms, which means you can get out of here quicker, and you can crystal dash until here. I think you might actually end up hitting this platform here, but whatever. It gets a 5.5 in my book. These bottom platforms, I kind of don't like. They don't really lead anywhere. I know this is kind of terribly spliced, but these 3 platforms don't lead anywhere. I guess technically this one, I'll give a 4.5 because of that. But yeah, it does lead to this one, which is why I don't want to give it any lower. But also, these 2 platforms, they don't really serve a purpose. Once you go down here, you can go over here, and unless you have double jump, you have to go back. If you have double jump, you can probably go here, but that's really about it. It doesn't really serve that big of a purpose. But in my opinion, both of these platforms will probably get like a, maybe this one gets a 2, a 3. This one probably gets a 2. So, because, you know, what do you do when you get there? You fall. Or you go back. It doesn't really serve that much of a purpose. This one probably gets a 5. This one probably gets a 5. I want to give it a higher than a 5, but I don't think I can. Because even if you crystal dash, you'll end up hitting this, I think, portion of the wall. I think it goes like this. Or maybe not. I don't remember. But you can crystal dash. But the thing is, if you crystal dash, then it's faster to get here. Or you could just dash, 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 which is roughly the same speed. So in my opinion, I want to give this one a 5 because crystal dash at that point is kind of redundant. And then this one, also 5. I don't know. It's not a very interesting area. It's kind of lackluster, but it's okay. I like this area, but I don't like its platforms, and that's what makes it frustrating for me. But in my opinion, yeah. And this was all of the Royal Waterways. It's pretty small. It's very long, yes. It's probably the longest area of the game. Definitely not the tallest, but it might be the longest area of the game. And unfortunately, this place kind of suffers from multiple, I guess, connectable areas. So there's not many platforms because of that. So, in my opinion, this area is okay. We only have a couple areas left, and especially at the time of this recording, I hope to get the other platforms out before I spend time playing a certain thing. Anyways, hey, if you did enjoy this or you disagree with any of my rankings, leave a comment. Say which ones you disagree with, or maybe you think are better or worse. Because I'll be honest, this place is pretty lackluster. But anyways, I have been Facade. I hope you have a good rest of your day, or your night, depending on your availability, of course. This has been all the platforms in the Royal Waterways. Now I'll see you in the next one. Good night.